Wow, I think. Okay, good morning, everyone. I'm Commissioner Harvin Forte. We have Commissioner Dorado, former Commissioner Dorado here, and we have Creighton Davis, we have Paula Hawthorne, and is that you, Lieutenant Fable? Who's on from OPD? Please unmute yourself. Okay.
It looks like Mariano's in the attendee.
Right. Okay. Okay, he's in the attendee. Okay, good then. And now I know what to do, Jose. I need to admit Mariano, so hold one moment then.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Jose. How are you?
I'm
Okay.
doing well, doing well. I always like to say I can't complain because nobody pays attention anyhow.
That's true enough.
Okay, there is Mariano. I promoted him. Hey, Jose, I promoted him.
You're doing fantastic. Bless your heart. I'd be stumbling all over.
Rania has given me tutorials, for 2 days on how to have them. I was just telling her, it's kind of like, okay, how somebody is in the waiting room or something, and they came, what do I do? Because it so rarely happens. I said, yeah, with the outlet, 3 people will have to be admitted today. And so we got one down. So she walked me through it, and I'm a pro now. Okay, and there's Mike Nesperos, who's present. So I still don't know who's there from OPD, but it's a little after 10. So why don't we go ahead and get started? And Creighton Davis has agreed to kind of monitor the screen. And I think, Creighton, you are already able, all of the panelists can share a screen. So you will be able to do that without having to be promoted to a co-host, is what Rania says. So whenever you want to share a screen, you can. Okay. Any questions from anyone before I turn it over to Jose, who's going to guide us through the rest of the meeting? If not, Jose, take it away.
All right. Thank you so much, Brenda, and thank you so much to all you who've joined us this morning. So hopefully we had a chance to take a look at the document. Kudos to Commissioner Shea for his work on this. But the bottom line is that we're in this section regarding the CRO's roles and responsibilities, we want to really outline in detail what it is that we want the officer to do. Just stating the obvious, but we really want to make it the language in such a way that it really focuses on what we feel should be the most effective way that this CRO can function within the community policing policy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and read quickly, and I'll throw in a couple things that I think should be changed, but I'm just gonna run down from the beginning. Community officers generally, every Oakland police officer, sworn out police officer is a community policing officer. Thus, it is responsibility of all department members, regardless of rank, position, or unit of assignment, to positively engage members of the community with the goal of fostering productive relationships and a collaborative effort to promote safe communities in line with the vision statement in section 1.
Excuse me, Jose.
Yeah.
It looks like we lost Creighton, and I want Creighton to go ahead and put that up on the screen also.
Okay.
But he's not with us anymore. Okay, there he is. There he is. Creighton, hi. Can you pull the document up on the screen where
Yes.
we are now?
Yeah,
Hey.
sorry, I was having some technical.
Yeah.
Give me
Yes,
one.
we lost you.
Okay.
You
Let
see
me do this. Let me Brenda, can you hang on? Can you run it for just a second? Let me deal with this phone call, okay?
Okay, all right.
Come What I would,
Clayton, is it possible to make that a senior font?
Yeah,
No
that's
worries.
right.
Thank you.
Is this better?
Yes, much better.
Okay.
Yes.
Great.
Good, good, good. So on section 2, roles and responsibilities, we have some comments from Commissioner Shea or some suggestions. I forgot to ask Rania what the color coding means. But I think this color coding means that Commissioner Shea suggests that we add, this includes supporting or not undermining, either one, the goals and directives of city leaders and the community. So that's a proposal to add that language to this section. Any thoughts, comments, or ideas on that one? And there's Joe DeVries. Hello, hi, Joe. Good morning.
Good morning. Sorry, I could not figure out where the link was. I apologize.
That's okay. Okay.
If I could comment on this, I know I'm jumping right in. I think instead it would say in supporting like the policy directives of the city, just to keep it broad. I mean, the city council has established policy directives that are adopted, especially as part of the budget every year.
Right.
Instead of city leaders, to say policy directives of the city.
Okay. All right. Creighton.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
I would eliminate the or not undermining, because that's like kind of a negative.
Yeah. And I took that as having the language be an either or, that we say either supporting or we say or not undermining. I took that as optional language.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that we all want to say supporting. And I think Jesse was offering us some alternate language. Supporting. So let's take it. Okay. So we'll read, this includes supporting the policy directives of the city policy makers.
I would just say that the policy directives of the city.
Okay, supporting the policy directives of the city. Okay. And that will capture it, because we have had officers sort of going out complaining about decisions that have been made and blaming everybody, the police commission and everybody else, for not being able to do what they want to do. So that's great. Jose, have you caught up?
yes, my
Okay.
apologies. I just had a client, he lost his wife and he's going through,
Oh,
I
no
just told him, look,
worries. Oh, yeah. No worries. No
yeah,
worries.
I told him
just-
the last thing we need to do be talking about your PG&E bill. Just be with you and your family, and
Oh,
we'll
poor
just
thing.
we'll just reschedule.
Yeah, poor
Anyhow,
thing.
my apologies. Yeah.
No.
We don't need to
no.
be talking about
As I
his
said,
family right now.
no need to apologize or explain. I just wanted to know what you whether you had caught up with the discussion where it is. So
Okay, so we're
Commissioner
talking,
Forte?
yeah, so they think that sentence would read, then this includes supporting the policy directives of the city.
Commissioner Forte?
Yes.
So I understand that, we're only working on language and possibly and recommending policy, but not necessarily follow through or enforcement. I don't know if I'm correct with that assumption, but on here, I believe that we need to maybe add a line to subject to retraining or reviewing the policy if not followed. We need to add some kind of quasi enforcement language on here.
Okay. So tell me where you would add it after.
Right after the last sentence.
Okay, so a new sentence.
Yes, it would be
Or comma. Okay.
or just comma, subject to retraining or review of policy if violated or not followed. Sorry, I'm not a good wordsmith.
That's okay. So give us the gist. You want them, when you say subject to retraining or review, your goal is
Right.
to?
So the example that you gave, Commissioner Forte, regarding, police officers out on the beat, blaming the police commission, blaming the city council for, lack of resources and their hands are tied, basically, that's what the line that they're putting out. If that is known, then, these officers need to either be, if they're CROs, they need to be, retrained or a review of the policies that the city council or the, what is it, the leader? Yeah, so just review some kind of action if to correct that action.
Okay, all right.
So-
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? It's just and Mariana is suggesting that we put something here that sort of reminds them that they could be subject to discipline or something, or subject to.
Well, maybe there's some room to just say, like a periodic review of policies so that all officers are at least aware. So not in those words, but just like that, the concept of a periodic review, so that officers are aware of the policy directives.
Okay, all right.
Mariano, where did you want to put in that language? After that last sentence?
Yes, right. Either comma after that last sentence or just a new sentence.
Okay, so you want to make it stronger and just say violations will be subject to discipline or retraining?
Yeah, I don't think that we have the authority to recommend discipline, but we do have the authority to recommend a review of the policies, and maybe something like a Creighton was recommending, a periodic review of the policies to make it clear to the CROs that that this kind of language is not conducive to their role.
So something like this, well, if we're going to use the word undermining,
I'm sorry, Jose.
Yeah.
Right now, that's how I wanted to make sure that you're caught. Do you see this Creighton screen? So we've
Yeah.
taken out the or not
okay,
undermining
word
language.
undermining, okay.
Okay, so that the sentence would read, this includes supporting the policy directives of the city.
Oh, supporting the policy directives. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, supporting the policy directives of the city. And Mariano is suggesting that we either add a comma after the word city and then put in language about subject to periodic review. Or Joe, that's what we're talking about. Subject to periodic review
Of those policies.
Okay. Subject to, so that would work, Mariano?
Yes, that kind of captures it, and if I come up with a better wording before end of day, I'll recommend it, but that's fine.
Maybe we even put it right here, and requiring periodic review. Includes supporting and requiring periodic review.
That reads better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Our officers of the policy directives, or of the policy directives of the city, I guess.
Yeah, that works much better. So any other comments on this first paragraph? That work, Mariano?
Yes, thank you.
And can
Uh,
let me
hmm.
clarify something. This periodic review by officers. Okay, we're saying periodic review of them to sort of update themselves, or are we talking about periodic review of the policies themselves?
There you go.
Which
The
one are we
policies
talking about?
themselves.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry,
I
which,
think Mariano just said that policies themselves. So
supporting and requiring the periodic review of the policy directives. So so this whole thing, I just want to, so this whole thing, so every Oakland police officer, sworn officer is a community police officer, your responsibility, collaborative effort. This includes supporting, and it's not requiring the periodic review. It should be, is it supporting and periodically reviewing? Is that what we're telling them? Basically, their responsibility is,
Well, requiring is mandatory then.
but who is going to require them?
The OPD command staff, if in fact they accept this policy, they'd be telling them that there's going to be periodic review as a requirement of this policy, specific to the policy directives of the city. At least that's the way I read it.
Okay,
You know, another
Alright.
way of putting it is, this includes supporting the policy directives of the city, period. To that end, periodic review of those policy directives will be required.
yeah. And if that's what, and let's basically put it in the active voice. Say it, I'm sorry, say it again, Mike. But let's say who's gonna do that review and stuff and updating. This requires a department to review and update
okay.
the something like that. That's what we're, because right now it's kind of like unclear who's gonna be doing this.
Okay, should we say the CROs rather than the department?
Okay, whoever is going to do, so to that end, the Mike, I really like your language, and to that end, the CROs must periodically review
Those policies and directives.
Okay, those
The
policies and
policies
directives.
and directives of the city.
Yep. Will that get it, Mario? Does that satisfy your concern, Mike? Does that satisfy your? And I'm sorry, Jose, you're back in charge. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. We're all working on this together. So Creighton, did you get, if that's acceptable, what Mike said, did you get the gist of what his modification was? You want to say it again, Mike?
It's written out there.
Okay.
Do you see the screen, Jose? Where the at least the document.
The blue at the last sentence, Jose, the blue.
Okay. So does that work, Mariano?
Yes.
Includes supporting.
Yes, yes.
City.
I mean, who enforces this is the policy we're writing, right? So if someone, so it's referenced back to this policy, and then the department would have to do the enforcement, correct?
That's
Right.
correct.
Okay,
If not, we'd be asking why not.
right. This is good.
Yeah, one of the general orders is that you follow all the policies that are written. So then that would be the triggering thing, is that general order. And the specific would be this policy.
Great. The thing I always keep in mind is that culture eats policy for lunch. So we always got to make sure that we're making the language strong enough that we are changing policy as a conscious goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe that's why I think that, some kind of enforcement or, is, or at least touching on the surface is important for us to mention.
I agree. Creighton.
Just a quick question. So this initial few words, this includes supporting. So what is this referring to? Is it the responsibility?
Yeah,
in the
that's,
previous sentence? So, because
yeah,
that's a
we
little
could,
unclear to me.
I think what we all have in mind is the cops that we hear out on the street bad mouthing, command staff, the commission, the city council, everybody in the moon,
Okay.
criticizing to the community, city policy, city and OPD and commission policy. And that's what we want to be able to deal with.
I
I think-
guess, yeah, the question that I had was, what was this word "this" referring to? And I'm guessing that it is from the previous sentence. It is the responsibility of all department members. So this responsibility includes, just for specificity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Perfect.
Okay, we good with that first sentence, that first paragraph? If so, let's go on to the second one. Any comments or modifications of this? The second one? Second paragraph? If not, let's go on to project management, etc. And this is just to recap, this is a responsibility of the CRO to not just be aware and educate him or herself about city resources, but all encompassing, county, state, federal, public, private, nonprofit, whatever, that can aid him or her in doing her job better. So nothing, no comments or modifications of that. Let's move on to advanced investigation techniques. Anything there? I'm sorry, Reggie's not with us. Wanted to ask him about this. Okay, that's good. Community engagement.
I'm sorry. Just going back to the project management resource allocation. Identification and utilization of community resources. What is that exactly in reference to? Is that could that also include like organizations as well, or what are we thinking about as resources? I know that we have a whole bunch of descriptive terms: city, council, county, state, federal, but
Well, what comes to mind on this specifically is a second step in the SARA process, and that is the analysis portion, where they analyze what they've scanned in the first step of a priority or a project, as they call them, and the analysis should include an identification of all of these resources from at whatever level, city, county, et cetera, so that they can use those resources, sort through those resources, having been aware of them, to come up with not just a response, which would be the third step in the SARA process, but also a possible collaboration, or I guess the best use of the word would be resource. There in many areas, even if it's a criminal matter, I believe that there's any number of city, county, state, federal, public, private, nonprofits that have a particular expertise in that area that they can bring to bear in the analysis and the development of the response of the CRO. We have tons of nonprofits in any number of areas that have any number of specific expertises that I think the CROs could very well utilize.
Awesome, that's helpful. So I'm wondering if it makes sense to just also add community instead of just resources, community resources, organizations, and yeah, maybe community resources and organizations there.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, anything else on project management?
Yeah, while
Creighton?
we're there,
Go ahead.
excuse me, while we're there, they want training, city academy, rotation of trainings. So we're telling them that we need to, can you scroll up just a little bit, Creighton, please? Okay, that last sentence. Okay, some of this training and experience includes, but is not limited to, project management, resource allocation. Under that is the identification and utilization of community resources. And under that is city academy, rotation of trainings. So they will need to get training in the city academy. Or they will need to have training and experience in city academy. What does that mean?
Isn't that where they learn which department can provide which service? Isn't that the purpose of the city academy? Joe?
Yeah, let me jump in here. I'm sorry, I'm like kind of, it was stewing in my mind and I couldn't quite figure out. And then thank you, Brenda. So a couple things. First, the city, I'm going to skip down the line. The city doesn't offer a crime prevention through environmental design course. You know, those courses are available, but they're not offered by the city. But I just want to say that. And then the city academy used to exist. We have not had a city academy in a long time. So we had the Citizens Police Academy, and we used to have a Citizens Academy, which was more broad. And Mike is right. It was about how government works, and we used it, you know, to train residents. I think what we should say here, and so we have had very successful trainings of CROs about different departments. We didn't call it City Academy. And you remember Lieutenant Fevell mentioned last time the training I did on the homeless encampment management policy. Like, it was really helpful. I want us to do more of that. I think we have a responsibility to bring, you know, public works and economic workforce development and whomever to the lineup to do periodic training. So I think, but calling it City Academy might it's just, it says we haven't done one, and we'd like to do one, but obviously we're really resource challenged. So I would say, I think I would be more specific here and just say, you know, ongoing training on local government functions, you know, something like that. Because not just city, it's county. Yeah, I would say ongoing training on local government functions.
You want to put that in? No, you're doing already. Is there any, Joe, is there any thinking around restarting those city academies? Just
Yeah.
another resource?
Yeah, we're just, Jose, you know, I've got 6 NSCs. I mean, it's just like, the way I'm typing, I'm responding to emails, you know, today that I should have responded to on Wednesday, because we need people.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Question.
yeah, I would love to restart them. To me, I mean, some great people came out of those academies. People learned a lot, and there's still neighborhood leaders today that were trained 20 years ago in those city academies. And yeah, so someday.
Okay, hopefully soon. Thanks, Joe. Any other modification you want to make on this section on the project management resource allocation?
Yeah, just, and also just a reminder that this is not an exhaustive list in any event. So if the city academies do get reinstated, that training could be required. So, but just to recap, so now we have 2 bullet points under project management and resource allocation, right? Are we getting rid of crime? We're getting rid of crime prevention. Okay.
Oh, I wouldn't say you need to get rid of SEPTED. Just have it say, just take out offered by city, and just say crime prevention through environmental design courses.
Okay. That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, they can do them online. I mean, I went through SEPTED training years ago. It's actually pretty interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a few hours, maybe a couple days, a couple different sessions.
Okay. All right.
Okay, if there's nothing else on this section, we okay with the advanced investigation techniques, the search warrants and undercover? Is that okay?
Mhm.
So what's the thought behind that?
I think it's just I see it just as being a general area of training that the CRO should be aware of and trained in, because certainly it's going to apply, and I would think in the more serious projects that they tackle, the drug house, for example. So I would think that they'd have to have some, not just in their specialized knowledge, but also knowledge about how search warrants and undercover operations work, because they may in fact be the lead element in something that's of a really serious nature, shootings, murders, drugs, etc.
Jose, what if we could broaden that? By the way, I like where you're going, but I also think, so I'm thinking about a neighborhood council and identifying their priorities. And one big priority lately is speeding, unsafe traffic, engagement. And so a CRO, a neighborhood council could say, we really, really want you to focus on speeding on these high injury networks. They need to get trained in LiDAR, in using a LiDAR gun. Like, why couldn't a CRO do the work of a traffic officer, since we don't have traffic officers? I mean, notwithstanding all the equity concerns around disparate, enforcement, which is a whole other subject matter, but it's like we had alcohol sales at the lake, and I couldn't get the CROs to conduct an operation. They had to have the ABAT unit do it. And so it took months before we got the ABAT unit out there in full force to just stop people from literally setting up a full bar at the lake. Several of them, quite frankly. And, once it happened, then the CRO felt some confidence going back and doing reinforcement for this one particular guy that's really, really belligerent. But so I don't even know that it's advanced, but it's maybe it's specialized. Maybe specialized is a better word, because it's not just about investigations. It's about all of these different things the department can do. I kind of want a CRO to be a jack of all trades in that regard.
Yeah.
So if he's in a neighborhood where people are worried about like large gatherings up in the hills that are creating a fire hazard, I want that CRO to know about the fire code, like what laws they have that they can enforce regarding fire. If it's a neighborhood where you've got high injury networks like Foothill Boulevard, I want them trained in LiDAR, and if it's a drug house, then yeah, I want them trained in search warrants. So maybe it should just be specialized.
So I wonder if it makes sense to kind of call out all those, like, at least examples of that, because that makes it a lot more tangible and focused. So maybe that, like, maybe it's those examples of, like, I think you was it alcohol? What was the term you used for
alcohol beverage action team, ABAT?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a really specialized one, but yeah.
So would it make sense to, like, call out, like, the actual issues rather than the like the skills, like whether it's traffic, like speeding, or like, because then that makes it a little more community focused and keeps it broad, I guess.
And up top, I would say addressing neighborhood issues or needs as identified by the neighborhood council. I just don't think our councils are doing a good job specifically identifying priorities and holding their CROs accountable to actually working on them.
Yep.
I think that's been a real long-term problem.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brenda.
Okay. And one other issue is what with the homelessness and the homeless encampments. What is the policy, OPD's policy in terms of that? I know someone who's in a homeless encampment for 2 nights in a row. The police came out and they were basically saying you have to leave. The owner wants you off. It's a fairly sizable encampment out behind Fuller Funeral Homes up there. And so the officers, they come out twice and said leave because the owner wants you out. And it was a family member. There's a family member who's there. So he called me and I talked with the officers and I said, what are you planning to do? Are you going to force them out, move them out and everything? Do you, under whose authority are you acting? They go, well, the owner wants them out. I said, are you talking to the owner? Who are you talking to? And so, anyway, we chatted and the officers overall on both nights were pretty respectful. And I said, there's a policy and procedure. If the owner wants them out, there's probably going to have to get a court order. They can't just, I said, I just want to make sure you're not going to go bulldozing down the tents and things like that. He goes, no, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. We'll try to refer them over to some resources. I said, very good. Eventually, after everything calmed down, we had a good relationship. At one point, I told him, I'm not your enemy. We're both on the same side. I just want to make sure that their rights are protected. And they had, there was a woman who was saying, no, we have squatters' rights. It's kind of like, I don't know about all of that, but in any event. So I thought, and the first night, the officer referred him over to some resources. He said, I'm going to refer everybody over for some resources. I said, that's very good. And then eventually I said, I just want to let you know, when I say we're on the same side, I'm a member of the Oakland Police Commission, and I'm working on the community policing aspect of the policy and stuff. And so I'm glad that you're going to refer them over for resources. And so they didn't make them go out that night. And the next night, same thing happened. Someone called, and so the police came out again and responded. At one point as well, I was hoping Lieutenant Faber was on. I asked the first officer the first night, I said, have you activated your body-worn camera? Because I don't need my body-worn camera. I said, well, aren't you here on enforcement action and stuff? Aren't you trying to enforce something? Don't you think you need your body-worn camera? No, that's not what my sergeant tells me or anything. And that's not what I've been trying. Anyway, long story short. So second night, I talked with the officer again, a different officer. They didn't make them leave that night. But last night, apparently they must have been back because I got another phone call that I missed. And so I've been trying to reach my nephew all morning to see what happened. But apparently I'm sure the police came out again. And so I don't know what the policy is on that. I had referred the people at the homeless encampment over to like the Eviction Defense Center and stuff. I said, you need some legal advice. You need to figure out what your options are. But I don't know what happened last night. And my nephew he's not responding this morning. But the only time he calls is when the police have shown up again. So those kinds of things, when homelessness is a big deal, obviously in Oakland, there are all these encampments. And you got to strike the balance between the owner of the property, who has a legitimate right to want them off, but then you got people who've been living there for months. I mean, I think that encampment has been there for probably at least 6 months. And,
where was this, by the way?
This is behind Fuller Funeral Homes out in East Oakland, which is Fuller, I think, is off Foothill or something.
That's what, 55th?
Yeah, around that way.
55th and Foothill. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't call. I didn't call Lieutenant Fable, for example, on Thursday, on Wednesday or Thursday, to just say, what is your policy? I hate to see the police wasting their time going out, but I guess they have to go out if somebody's saying they're representing the owner calls, and then they have to respond. But then it's kind of like, and it's always early in the morning. Like my nephew this time called me like at 2:30, the one that I missed last night, that call. But it's always about 1 or 2 in the morning. Sometimes the first night they said, you guys got to be out of here. Not the officers, the security guards said, you guys got to be off this property in 2 hours. And so I said, no, they can't make you do that. So anyway, but there needs to be something about what we do with the homeless problem, with the homeless encampments.
Yeah,
Go
Brenda,
ahead.
we could spend 8 hours today on this.
Right.
But let me just tell you, I'm painfully familiar with our city's encampment management policy because I helped write it.
Okay.
For better or worse. I mean,
Okay.
up until about a year and a half ago, I led the encampment management team, and it was nearly
Okay.
killed me. So it's
Okay.
the most challenging work I've done ever. But we had an administrative policy, and we felt that we kept getting mixed signals from individual council members, like, do this, don't do that. And we would come to council and we would get berated by advocates for our policy. So what we decided to do was have the council adopt the policy. We're like, all right, well, here's what we propose. And the person who followed me, my predecessor, Dariel Dunstan, the city's first homelessness administrator, he really worked to hone that policy with the city council, and they adopted it unanimously in November of 2020 to go into effect in January.
Okay.
However, so the policy is very clear. Now, private property, what you're describing is a completely separate matter, but we do have a council adopted policy. They adopted a resolution attached to it, 88077, which requires that we offer shelter. Anytime we close an encampment, we have to offer shelter. But even prior to council adopting the policy, we have had a standard operating procedure and a policy that has been tested 6 times in federal court. I was personally named in 6 federal lawsuits in 2019. It wasn't fun, but me and Dan Siegel got to hang out a lot.
Okay.
Because Dan and his team represented a lot of these folks. We were able to get 5 of them dismissed quickly because the judge said, like, no, the city's got a very sound constitutional policy. On the 6th one, we've been in a settlement conference for a couple of years. Obviously, I can't talk about it, but all I'm saying is we are very careful, and so what those officers did, what you described, that's a little outside the policy. But then again, if this is on private property, they were probably trying to gain voluntary compliance as a trespassing issue. It's like, hey, this is private property, you are trespassing, the owners have asked you to leave, and there's nothing wrong with asking for voluntary compliance like that.
Right.
But for the rest of the encampments citywide, we have a policy. We have officers dedicated to the team that go out with Public Works after our human services people do outreach, after we provide ample notice. And most encampments we don't close. The policy delineates we close encampments that are in high sensitivity zones, and in encampments that are in low sensitivity zones, we provide ongoing cleaning. If they get to a point where they're behaving in a manner that reaches a certain threshold, then we can close those as well. But it's very prescriptive. It's very, because we had it in the council. So that team is extremely careful in how they do their work. The rest of the department, though, the CROs and the rest of the department have a responsibility to help us implement that policy. So after we do close an encampment, we really feel that the CRO should do some basic patrolling to make sure that it doesn't come back. Because it's such a huge amount of resources to close it. Once we do that, we want to keep it closed. And we do offer everyone shelter. We've built many community cabins and now the pallet houses and the RV parks. But we could talk all day about it.
I do want to move on. If that's okay, Brenda.
Sorry about that. Sorry.
Joe, we can talk offline.
Sure.
If you actually send me your cell phone, if you don't mind if I call you later on.
Sure.
But I raised that because maybe we want to mention something in here as well in terms of policies and stuff and any specialized training. All the officers need to know how to respond. I think it will be a while before we get rid of all homeless encampments in Oakland. And if it's private property, then the owner should probably be told, it's private property, you need to go get a court order or whatever, if they won't leave. So that's the kind of thing. I don't want them using the police to intimidate people out there or scaring them into saying, we have to go. We got to pack up all of our shopping carts and everything else and our tents, and we're going to go.
Joe, what do you think would be the best description of that policy and the CRO follow-up instead of just encampments.
I would say the encampment management policy. I mean, that's what it's called.
Okay.
It's called the EMP.
Okay,
Encampment management policy. Okay,
Right.
great.
okay. Anything else on this section?
Yes, please. So we started out with specific things, search warrants and undercover operations. What Joe suggested was that rather than making it that narrow, we describe situations that they need to be trained for, like traffic safety and fire safety, encampment. And I would not say encampment management policy, because what we're doing here is not policies. We're doing issues that the NCs bring up. And so I would just say encampment problems, whatever. Sales of alcohol and drugs. Search warrants was there because of drug houses, right?
Mhm.
Right.
And so instead of saying search warrants, say drug houses. You see what I mean? Where
Yeah.
we're going here is not to the solution, it's to the problem.
Yeah,
The problem is drug houses, and they need to know everything to do with that community issue. You know, specialized training, addressing community issues needs as identified by neighbor councils, such as traffic safety, fire safety, encampments, sales of alcohol, drug houses. What else? We, of course, in Rockridge have problems of burglaries and house break-ins. That's the main thing we have problems in. But I don't know that that's something you need any specialized training in, to tell you the truth.
So we want to Creighton, we want to substitute search drug houses for search warrants?
sure. Just wondering if there's any way we can combine that with the prior bullet, like locations and sales of alcohol, drugs, or other substances, because we know that doesn't always occur at.
Yeah, that sounds good.
How about sales, locations of alcohol, drugs, and other illegal substance sales?
Yeah,
So we're talking specific locations, and generally there are, even if it's just a street corner.
Sorry, what was the proposed edit?
I was suggesting under, right, we have the cursor,
Yeah.
locations of, oh yes, locations of the sale of alcohol, drugs, or other illegal substances.
Sorry, locations
Of the sales
okay.
about, yeah. And I would just add illegal in front of substances. Because it could be, you know, pills as well. And then we eliminate drug houses. Paula?
sure. Just that way we have one less bullet. That's great.
Okay. Do we think we want to eliminate undercover operations as well? Okay. We good with this section?
Jose?
Yeah, go ahead, Mariano.
Yeah, I really like this because it to Creighton's point, you know, it's a little more community friendly. And remember, we're always trying to, we had identified community policing as community driven. And so, you know, when you mention undercover operations or warrants, it immediately, you know, that's not very friendly. But another point that you mentioned, Jose, that kind of it's a little concerning to me is that, you know, you mentioned that maybe sometimes, you know, these CROs will be involved in these operations. And I believe that, you know, them being, you know, sworn officers, you know, they may have to be under, you know, necessity, but for them to lead or drive these warrants or undercover operations. I don't believe that that should be under, it should not be their responsibility under a CRO.
Yeah, I was thinking more in terms of, yeah, it's a point well taken. I was thinking more in terms of their being trained in the mechanics of search warrants and undercover operations as opposed to leading them. The leading I was thinking was, and it made me think of the lead role that the CRO played in I forget now the name of the operation behind Castlemont that he described in his presentation. Certainly the CRO took a lead in that, and it was a very serious situation. But yeah, eliminating search warrants and undercover operations is fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, if I could just tag along to Mariano's point, I agree, because when I think of like the CRO, I think of someone that's particularly accessible to the community, and when there's a very close relationship with like enforcement and the community, then that makes the individuals within the community less likely to feel comfortable interacting with the CRO. And if the CRO is, supposed to be there to support community efforts, then you want, the reputation of him or her to be one that is, accessible, open, and not enforcement led, but community led. So, Mariano, I agree with your point.
Mike.
Yeah, I support what Mariano and Creighton said about keeping the ethos of the CRO appropriate. And let me assure you, Jose, you have nothing to worry about with search warrants. Cops have extensive training in the academy, and Fourth Amendment is on their mind every time there's a stop of somebody. All of the issues of having a warrant, having consent, those are all present. So they do know search warrants. They may not know undercover operations, but they're probably going to go back to their lieutenant, who's going to turn it over to a specialty unit that does undercover operations. And like Creighton and Mariano said, they won't be involved in it. They will have triggered that response, but they will not be a part of it.
Okay. No, good points. Thank you, gentlemen. So if we're good with this section.
Can I just clarify? Yeah, just want to clarify one thing as we talked about the encampments. The entire time I dealt with the officers until the very end, I represented myself as the attorney for my nephew, because I am a licensed attorney. So all they knew was that I was an attorney for one of the residents of the encampment. So anyway, okay.
Okay.
Just an attorney.
Just an attorney, just an attorney,
Right.
Just want to make sure they're right. Yeah, I just want to make sure their rights are protected and everything. And then at the end, it's what I said,
And by the way, I'm working on the community policing policy. Just
yeah, I actually commended them. I said, you guys are really good. And I just want to tell you that I'm actually pleased as a member of the committee of the police commission. I'm actually pleased with your professionalism and the way you're handling it. So anyway.
All righty. Thanks.
No mention of your past life as the presiding judge.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of like, I'm no longer a judge. I said, I didn't mention even judge, I might have said, I might have said at the end too, that I'm a retired judge, and I know what it is for the owners to want people off of their property. But sometimes, you got to go into court. I dealt with a lot of those court cases where the owners were kind of like, we need to get them off of my property. I can't do anything. They've taken it over. They got tents for a block, I own all of this. And so anyway, okay.
Okay, so Creighton, you want to go up to that? There's the community engagement section.
Yeah.
Any comments on, thanks. Any comments on that? And actually, this is, I think, a pretty important set of skills. Go ahead, Mariano.
Yeah, thank you. These skills are important, but to me, it's a list of skills, and it's fine. We can more than likely in the department can find officers that have these skills, but my question is how to use them. How do you engage community? So I added develop and employ an outreach plan to engage community. identify neighborhoods on a rotating schedule to inform residents. So those historical neighborhoods that have been neglected, or there are no thriving NCPC, CROs, we identify those, or the CRO team can identify those and develop and employ an outreach plan so that it's written. And so, on a rotating basis, there's a schedule, maybe monthly, maybe quarterly, go out to these neighborhoods and inform the residents that this is what we're doing. This is the community policing policy. This is what's in place, because, the community engagement and the list of skills is fine and everything, but if there's no outreach plan, then, we fall short. So I don't know if that language is enough or if people agree, but I think we need to mention something of that sort. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a point well said. Go ahead, Mike.
I agree with what Mariano said, and I think it points to us leaving out what I think is probably the most significant tool for community engagement, and that's social media. Do we have a Facebook page for that CRO, for that neighborhood, so that people are communicating? That's how people communicate. I don't think we can teach them to do TikToks, but maybe Facebook will work.
Or Meta now, right?
Meta.
Yep. See, I'm behind the times.
Yeah, Meta billions. That's what it is.
Meta neighbor, how's that? Meta neighbor, and I like him.
So yeah, I think the point is well put, that there needs to be a plan. What do people think about putting that exact? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Paula.
I wouldn't be so specific as to say Facebook. I would say, yes, having the plan, and I do agree there needs to be a plan, and that the plan should include the best way to communicate with people. I'll tell you what, on my block, the only way to communicate with people is to go door to door, because they're not answering email and they're not looking on their Facebook. And so face-to-face is the way to do it. I don't know about your neighborhood or the people in other neighborhoods and how they communicate. So I would say that there needs to be a plan, a community engagement plan. And I think that's, do you see that deployed ? Use up there? I would say have a plan, community engagement, have a plan on how to employ, have a plan on how to outreach to the community, because it's going to be different for every community. I mean, in some communities, outreach is really good if you get to certain churches or if you get to certain civic organizations, and I mean, I think all of us is an expert in our own neighborhood council, and that's kind of it.
So how does that look? How does that look, Paula?
And didn't we want to say something like including the use of social media and neighborhood organizations, or y'all help me with the words here, churches,
Right.
I mean, just including and put in some things there that people have been talking about, like the social media or churches or neighborhood organizations or going door to door.
Neighborhood
And-
schools.
Excellent.
If I could jump in, I mean, I'm struggling right now with the neighborhood services division to figure out the most effective outreach strategy, and it's different everywhere, as you guys have just pointed out. It might make sense to keep it more broad. We were knocking on doors in Elmhurst, and I just couldn't get to the door at so many houses because of all the fences, and a lot of the staff were really demoralized, especially getting chased by pit bulls. And we're like, maybe it'd be better to stand in front of the corner store, or hit the school, at 8:30 in the morning when all the moms and dads are dropping off their kids. All of these are good ideas. Now we're hoping to table at these Friday night out events that DVP is putting on, if the service providers will have us. I know my staff is really looking forward to having to work from 6 to 10 on Friday night. They love me for that. So I mean, it's different everywhere. And like, to Mariano's point, to Mike's point, social media, sure, that works for some people. But to Paula's point, you got to knock on the door in Rockridge. Like, yeah, so I think maybe keeping it broad and just saying having an outreach strategy. Otherwise, I think we could make this policy really long.
I'm sorry. I was going to say what we're trying to get. We want a policy that is tailored to the community. That's kind of what we wanted.
Yeah.
So
A plan. We want a plan.
A plan that is tailored to the particular community. And maybe we can say something like that: community plan tailored to
each community.
To the community, or to each community.
Yeah, because this is the preceding, before the list begins, it states that the trainings and experiences will include, and then it makes this list. So we're referring to training. So the training can get really specific to neighborhoods and, and different areas. So we can just be, as general or specific here, but let's not worry about us developing the outreach plan. That will be done in the training.
So does that language look appropriate? Develop and deploy a community outreach plan tailored to each neighborhood that engages community members in coordination with neighborhood councils and neighborhood services.
Excellent.
Sounds good to me.
Yes.
Perfect.
Right. And
Paula, that good for you?
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And
Good job, Creighton, putting that together.
no worries.
And then we need to state that, to begin with, we can identify those neglected neighborhoods or the ones with most need.
Did you want to add that, Mariano?
Well, it's the last sentence: identify neighborhoods on a rotating schedule to inform residents or to employ this outreach plan.
What do you mean by a rotating schedule? Because in my mind, it would be the CROs. They're doing it on a continuous basis.
What I was referring to, I know that there's always mention of lack of resources or teams not being able to do this on a all at once. So if that is a problem, then we put resources where we need to.
Got you. Okay.
So does that sit well with everybody? Identify neighborhoods on a rotating schedule to inform residents? So the idea is to identify those neighborhoods that need this outreach the most. Is that right, Mariano?
Yeah, maybe that's
or I'm sure that someone here in this group knows of NCPCs or CROs that aren't thriving or aren't really active. So we know of those who it's not that they're suffering, but it's the neighborhoods that are suffering. So if someone knows those, then let's identify those. Like I know that there's some in the Fruitville that aren't as active and don't know much about this. So
yeah, absolutely.
Should
So
we put that on a priority list? Yeah.
Would that work then? That what Creighton had added, prioritizing neighborhoods that are high need, and then we identify the rest. I mean, we we eliminate the rest.
Yeah, sure. That works.
Okay, great. Thanks, Creighton.
sure.
Yes, Creighton. Thank you.
No worries.
And are we? What do we think about the other bullet points? The public speaking and effective communication, interpersonal skills, customer service, positive interaction skills. That all work? Okay.
I was gonna say, can we combine any of them? With, I said, but public speaking and effective communications, can we put interpersonal, can we do all of those under one bullet?
Yeah, it seems a little duplicative.
Can we do public speaking, effective communications? We can do interpersonal, okay, interpersonal skills, customer service, positive interaction skills. I think
We
that's,
just do communication, public speaking, interpersonal skills. Effective communication.
How's that work?
mhm,
No, and community customer service. I like customer service.
yeah. And customer service.
Is
I
that
mean, do you need to
communication
say
or is
effective-
that?
Do you need to say effective communications? Isn't it kind of by, I mean, that feels, it's just, yeah.
Is customer service communication, or is that like the delivery of services? Like,
In this regard, it is communication. I mean, think about good customer service. When you call a place and they are poor at communicating, even if they give you the same product, it feels crappy versus when they are really good at communicating and you get the same product in the end. You know, it's like, so under the guise of communication, yeah, high quality customer service.
Public
Yeah.
speaking, interpersonal skills, and high quality customer service. How's that?
Mhm.
I like that.
All righty. Great. All right. So if we've wrapped up this section under community engagement, if everybody's good with it, let's move on.
real quick question. So one thing that's just coming to mind is, building relationships with residents and how we might, include that in community engagement, and how, we might even include restorative justice based type dialogues within community engagement, something that recognizes, harm suffered. And I know we do that a little bit in the next section, but I'm wondering if it makes sense to include some of those thoughts here in engagement.
Another bullet point that that calls out restorative justice. I don't know what would be the word, perspective. What were you thinking, Creighton?
Throwing it out to everybody because I don't have, maybe it's a relationships, like building relationships, and what might be included in that kind of bucket. Because that falls in community engagement, but that seems, the community engagement bullet point seems more like a strategy, and then relationships seems a little more granular, and maybe that's something we could discuss really quickly. I don't know how we might define that or what we'd include in that, but just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, the way I look at the community engagement and the relationships is that it'll come about as a part of the collaboration that's going to be done, hopefully around some real solid issues that the community identifies, and dealing with them in terms of first identification, secondly, actually writing it up according to SMART principles, and thirdly, actually shepherding it through the SARA process. So it's that kind of collaboration between the CRO from the beginning to the end that I see is going to develop that kind of relationship. Because what could be better than to have that kind of collaboration really be successful in dealing with a community identified problem and eliminating it.
So Creighton, if I understand your question or concern is that as part of the list of skills, are you saying that one of them should be the tools of restorative justice procedures there, but not necessarily part of the outreach plan, right? You're talking about listing that as a skill?
Yeah, I'm thinking about how do officers interrelate with individuals from a community that come from a broad base of experiences, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds. And maybe that just includes in communication, like, like
Well, if it's
diversity,
more,
or like, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
if it's more than that, and I'm just going to suggest that, maybe that should go in the next list, which is commitment to harm reduction, repair, and community. And then there we can list and identify, because this next one is really heavy, man. This gives us an opportunity to address many things. I know at the bottom it says implicit bias, but implicit bias could be, someone has a bias on overweight people. Someone has a bias on, hat wearing folks, but it doesn't mention racial implicit bias. So here, I think we have a real opportunity to address that. And I believe we can also include in here, you said, to folks to be able to deal with, different communities, racial communities. So I don't know, do you think that, we can bring that up here? Your issue?
Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I'll think of maybe if there's something to include in communication, like, racially sensitive communication or something like that. But that doesn't come to mind immediately in terms of the right term. So yeah, it makes sense to skip to the next section.
Okay, going on to the next section, and as Mariano said, this is really a heavy duty concept, this idea of the commitment to harm reduction, repair of the harm, and community first policing. In my way of thinking, we're really going to have some really exceptional officers with really solid training and background to be able to go into an atmosphere where they're really subjected to potentially a lot of abuse, a lot of the verbalization of the trauma in the community, and still be able to not only withstand that, but be able to be trained to the extent that they can actually begin to repair the harm that they're hearing and frankly being attacked with. So we're going to have some really exceptional folks, I think, to be able to do that. So anyhow, I want to hear people's thoughts of these bullet points in this section.
Well, can I begin? and also I want to apologize. I really should have had some more written contributions on here so that we don't have to do it, in these sessions. But I also believe that having conversations and discussions of on contributions in these sessions is really important because you can flesh things out. So stress management, I don't have a whole lot of much to say about that, but de-escalation. I think that de-escalation, policies, I believe that all officers, all sworn officers of every gender, race, can follow de-escalation policies when it comes to color of skin, to skin color. When you're dealing with a white person, when an officer is dealing with a white person, the de-escalation policy goes out the door. I'm sorry, with a white person, then they apply it. When they deal with a person of color, it goes out the door, because that's where implicit bias, racial implicit bias comes in. That's where different things come into play. So de-escalation, that section of it needs to say something about race. Commissioner Harbin Forte and some others that are more, trained in the law, we'll always say, well, you can't bring up race because you can't prove it. And I'm not speaking about you specifically, Commissioner Harmon Forte. I'm just thinking about the way the law is written, and I believe that that's true, but it doesn't preclude us from mentioning that. And the more we mention it, the more we can affect culture. So you folks have to help me out here in de-escalation. How can we mention race in here where, and during the training that, we have to tell sworn officers that, the de-escalation policy has to begin, with no skin color consideration. So how do we do that? So that's my question there. And that also applies to harm reduction. It also applies to cultural diversity and competency. I have very real difficulties with those terms because you can have someone who claims and who may be who have the ability to deal with different folks from different backgrounds, from different racial backgrounds, from different economic backgrounds. But a lot of times cultural diversity and competency leaves out fairness, leaves out equity, leaves out race. So if we're going to include that in there, we have to be very specific, with the definitions of what we're looking for as far as a trait. So that's my contribution for now, or for discussion.
Any other comments on this? Again, this is really a heavy part of the policy. So it may well be that we want to have this as part of our homework, which is something we'll talk about later. But go ahead, Creighton.
Just to Mariano's point, maybe that's something we put in that little preamble there, where we include commitment to harm reduction, repair, and community first policing with a focus on or sensitivity to like race, equity, culture, like some of the things that Mariano mentioned. So it encapsulates all the bullet points rather than naming it for each of the bullet points. We can figure out what the language would be, but maybe we put it there.
Preamble, you're talking about the first part under section 2, roles and responsibilities. Right from the beginning.
No, I just mean, well, we could do it there too, but we could also put it right here in this commitment to harm reduction.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Repair.
Okay.
And
okay.
That title, I guess.
Okay.
Subsection.
All right. Do we want to?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Joe.
I know, I just think this is all good stuff, and I think Mariano brought up some really important concerns, but these are concerns I have for the entire department. I think when I think about how our CROs conduct themselves in the community versus our CRT members or patrol, it's different, and so my only concern is I wouldn't want any of this lost on the rest of the department, because if you've got a CRO who's committed to harm reduction and crisis and de-escalation and all these great things, and he has a wonderful interaction, or she has a wonderful interaction with a young person standing on a corner, and the next day a patrol officer treats that young person with complete disrespect, it's like you lose that. And so when Creighton said preamble, I'm like, yeah, this should be for all officers. So I just wanted to say that, because I've seen them all behave very differently in different situations.
Joe, that's why in the next the longer paragraph at the bottom, that's why I included that including conduct practices where positive and learned de-escalation applications and field experience are taken back to the department for scaled practices. because it's important. You are correct. This is where, this is where it's being practiced and learned. And then you're correct. Why keep it right here? This needs to go back to a scaled level to the entire department. This is where we are learning it, take it back there, and teach it. So yeah, you are correct with that. That's why that last sentence was included.
Right.
So given that we still have some thoughts on this section, do we want to put that on a parking lot as homework for the upcoming sessions? Go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, I was going to let you finish. I agree. I was going to say perhaps we should put some notes in. I like Mario makes a very good point about Mariano makes a very good point about it's basically differential treatment based on race, and we need to the de-escalation techniques that he mentioned. It is totally different depending on the race of the person they're interacting with. So we want them to be trained, and it's not. It may fall under implicit bias, but it may fall under something else. Sometimes it's explicit bias. So maybe some notes about what we want to accomplish under this heading. Just maybe in brackets or something when we work on it, what we want to try to accomplish. And again, Mario's we want them to. It's basically race-based treatment, and that's what's happening.
Do we want
to race and gender-based treatment?
Do we want to put under that that de-escalation in brackets the question how and race race different treatment, something like that, just to give us some thoughts or some lead into some thoughts around how that de-escalation relates to racial inequities.
Yeah.
I just put a comment on the side that covers that section. So let me see if it works for you guys. So Mario, I put Mariano. Do you guys see it, by the way? It's on the side.
No. You have it in you have it in 21-year-old font.
So it says ensuring that differential.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry. So just to kind of table this for the next time, it says ensuring that differential treatment is mitigated through specific language that emphasizes equal treatment regardless of race, gender, socioeconomic status, etc. Maybe we just say revisit this topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can we put it in under de-escalation right now? So that just put it next to that in brackets so that we know, at least with respect to that one, what we want to try to accomplish. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. Thank you, Creighton.
Sure.
Well, I can't imagine what I would be doing if I was trying to do it.
Now you see why
there'd be stuff all over the screen.
Why I asked Rania, can you get somebody please to do that, because I am not going to be able to do all of this. So yes, indeed, Creighton, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's about 11:30, 11:25 is what I got. I don't want to push anybody, but I want to respect everybody's time. So we're actually with this section, we actually have finished the first page. We only have 9 to go.
Let's not forget Creighton's recommendation of including, possibly restorative justice practices and procedures under here. Let's just put that as a bullet point so we can. Thank you.
That is such an important element to, I think, so much that the neighborhood councils and the resolution of the priorities can employ and really bring it back to the community for the rebalancing of any, not any, but many issues and problems in the community anyhow, I'll leave it at that, but that's just so important. Okay. So we're good for now with the commitment to harm reduction, et cetera. We're good for that. This is, as I said, as I suggested before, this is homework for later on. Certainly, there's a lot here to think about. So let's move on then to the last part of this section. These trainings shall include, et cetera, include content and curriculum developed and presented by diverse community representatives and organizations to the greatest extent possible. That's I think another very, very important part of this policy, in that we're basically saying, or at least my take on this is that the academy should, not as guest speakers, bring in community folks and community topics, but it should be seen by OPD that the community has an integral part of the training of rookie police officers. And not only do they come in and do the training, but they develop the curriculum that they use to train. And even better yet, if that actual training can be done out in the community itself, as opposed to downtown, I think those are three elements that of that community perspective that would really make an impression. So that's just my take on it. How's the language on this in this sentence? Is that acceptable? Any changes? If not, we'll go on to the rest of it. Supervisor commanders of CROs shall identify training which will enhance the professional development of CROs. CROs shall identify training which will enhance their development or job performance and submit training requests for consideration, including conducting practice groups for positive and learned de-escalation applications, and quote, field experience are taken back to the Department for Scale Practices. How does all that sound? Now, yeah, I wanted to ask Mariano regarding the scale practices. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I'm just wondering why there isn't any portion here that the community identifies some of the trainings that that would be needed. You have all the police just figuring out how to fix themselves, and there's no community input into what training would make them more effective.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. How would we incorporate that thought, Creighton?
You could simply insert the word identified. You could say these trainings shall include content and curriculum identified, comma, developed, comma, and presented by diverse community representatives.
That's good. I like that.
And Jose, for the record, I see that we're joined by Commissioner Rudy Howell. Hi, Commissioner Howell.
All right.
Welcome,
for the-
Commissioner.
All right, how you doing?
Hello. For the rest of you, this is our newest commissioner. He's come onto the commission and just done an outstanding job. Wonderful ideas, good participation. Very thoughtful person. So we're lucky to have him. And he's
Thanks for
going to be
joining us,
working.
Rudy.
Yes.
All right.
Glad to see you.
Good to be here.
Good to be seen, as they say.
Yeah.
So we're right in the middle of this last part. I don't know if it's actually the second page of the policy and that you were sent,
Okay, got it.
and we're up at the top. Did you get that the point that was made, Creighton?
Yeah, I think so, right? Joe, this is what you had referred to. You had suggested content and curriculum identified, developed, and presented by diverse community representatives and organizations.
Does that work, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. That's good.
I understand what we're trying to get at with to the greatest extent possible, but I almost think that creates an out, because you can say, well, couldn't do it. We tried our best. So
I agree. I would suggest eliminating that. There's no reason to put a limitation on it of any kind. Okay, does that sentence sound pretty good, everybody?
Yeah.
If so, going down to the second paragraph, I wanted to ask quickly Mariano to speak about the use of the word or this phrase scaled practices.
Okay, my intention with this was that, there's theory and practice, and it sounds like, we, with this policy, the CROs and those responsibilities, if they implement, techniques that work, let's take, for instance, de-escalation policies, and their work and they're effective. Let's not keep it here, in the practice level. Let's take it back to the larger police department, for scaled, for department, scale it up to full department application. That's what the intention of that sentence was.
Okay, does that come across everybody as?
No, I think if we were to say, are taken back to the department for general use, for general application, I think scaled practices is a bit too something that other people don't understand. So I would just say general use or general.
General or full department use?
Full department use. There you
Okay.
go, for full
Okay.
department use.
Perfect.
And take out the word scaled practices.
Okay.
Hey guys, it is according to my clock 11:30, and according to my schedule, I'm going to have to run. Or if we're going to be more than about 5 minutes, I should just go now, unless you think we're going to be done pretty quickly.
I have to kind of roll too.
Yeah, this is probably a good time to end. We can get into the next section at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's 11:30. It's after 11:30.
Okay, well, if that's a consensus, then let me throw out that our next session, we may well, with the holidays, want to wait until January. In the meantime, there's plenty to think about and do, but I wanted to throw that out. I personally willing to meet anytime, anywhere, but I wanted to be mindful of people's Thanksgiving and holidays and family, etc. While at the same time understand that we can still be communicating with our thoughts around the policy and be doing our homework in the meantime. So I wanted to throw that out and see what people think. Is that a consensus?
Well, maybe we should ask Rania to do another doodle poll around the next, what would naturally be the next time to meet.
Okay.
And just look at it. I mean, and see how many people can actually meet. I think it's good to keep momentum going. On the other hand, Christmas vacations are always nice. So whatever you guys want to do.
Yeah, no, I absolutely, I agree. And we even though, we got to the first couple of pages, I think we did some really solid work. And I think that absolutely, if we continue this dialogue and in this kind of a format, as opposed to just doing it like online or something, I think it's really valuable. I think this is what's really going to advance our thinking, our collective thinking, and I think that's the really critical element, is that collective kind of work. So then, if there's, go ahead, Brenda.
Yeah, just for context, neither Commissioner Shea nor I can be here on the 4th, and then on December 11th, I know that I can't be here. I don't know if Commissioner Shea can be here on the 11th also. And then we were getting so close into Christmas, it was more like, maybe we should just put this in January and keep people engaged through homework and exchanging emails as well with ideas. So that's part of the basis, the context for saying maybe we should just do homework in the month of December and then move it over to January. But we'll see. Jose and I can decide if we can do the doodle poll,
Right.
knowing that the 4th and the 11th would be out. So we'd really be looking at possibly, what was that, December 18 for a possible, if we do December at all. Yes.
Can I ask, I guess anyone, but specifically Creighton, when I go to the doc and make my comments or contributions, does everyone get it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then I just promise to go ahead and put my thoughts more succinct in the in this section that I mentioned. Yeah, but and I to Commissioner Harvey Forte's point, I think we can do our homework in that manner. I just wasn't aware that could be done, or maybe I was. Sorry.
And Mariano, just to that point, if you'd like to, and this is for everyone actually, instead of depending on how you want to add comments, you can include them as suggestions so that it's in track changes. So you would just click on this little tab up here and go from editing to suggestions, and then that will allow the text to be to appear in green or blue or whatever the preset is on your computer, and then people will see the additions rather than it just being part of the original text.
So it's gonna color code me.
Yep. They'll know it's you.
Got it.
It's got to distinguish you on the basis of color.
There you
Yes.
go.
Commissioner Howell has his hand up, Jose.
Okay,
Yeah,
go
so-
ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, I had another meeting. So just real briefly, what is the nature or the tone of the language? And so that's the first question. And then is this policy, we're creating policy that will become law for Oakland PD? What's happening here?
Well, the tone and the nature of it is to put the language in such a manner that in fact we will have a solid community policing policy, meaning that the CROs, the community resource officers, will actually be developing relationships, working in collaboration with the community, focused on neighborhood identified problems and taking them through the SARA process and reporting back. So that in essence is what we're talking about. And what was the second part of your question?
And then so we're creating policy. This is going to be policy that becomes law.
Well, this is the first stage. We'll be this committee will be submitting a draft to the full commission
Okay.
for their edits. And given that we have someone from OPD here, the hope is that in fact that draft that's presented to the commission will be approved by OPD. So it's a mutual document in that respect. The commission, of course, will make its own edits, and assuming that OPD is okay with those edits, then it doesn't have to go before the city council. If that's not the case, then it will go before the city council and then make the final decision.
Okay, and then another question I have is so some of the stuff I've been reading, I noticed that, so the CROs are going to be under the BFO 1 and 2.
Correct. Yes.
That's who manage, because they're law enforcement. The CROs are law enforcement, and then they connect with the community.
Yes, that's really the essence of what their job should be, is that they focus on their assigned the problems and priorities as identified by their beats that they're assigned to.
One of the 5 districts.
Yes, but there's 57 defined beats, but only about it's only about what, Joe, maybe 50 that actually have neighborhood councils that are operational.
There's 44 councils because some of the beats are combined. So 33, 34, 20, 23, 24. Yeah, so they're combined. So there's about 44 actual councils.
Okay. So each council or each beach, I should say, has an assigned community resource officer.
Okay.
And they're a special officer in a lot of different senses, but certainly in terms of their responsibility to develop a relationship with and collaborate with their assigned beat, working
Okay.
through problems.
Okay, and then what's the relationship between the CRO and the NSC?
Well, the CRO and the neighborhood services coordinators are supervised by Joe DeBreeze here. You see on your screen.
Okay,
Out of the
Yes.
out of the
What's up, Joe?
neighborhood out of the neighborhood services.
I know Joe
Division.
from the gym
So-
in its SF, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it just occurred to me. I'm like, God, I know this guy's face. There we go. Right on.
But
I'll
You
see you
know,
tomorrow
Jose-
morning.
Jose, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe you and I can give Rudy a tutorial
Yes.
after the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay,
And if you have time, Rudy, so that I know other people have scheduling
no problem, yeah.
scheduling issues.
But
So-
also, can I just say something to Commissioner Howell? We do have someone from the police department working on this ad hoc as
Okay.
Officer Fable. So, he's also committed, and also the department is committed to really paying attention and also advocating for this policy, participating
Beautiful.
in advocating for this policy. So it's not like we're going up against blindly with the department. There would already have been some cooperation and partnership.
That's beautiful.
All right,
If I could really quick, guys, for
Thank
the
you.
record,
Miss-
it's Lieutenant Febble. I've heard people call him Fable, Feeble.
Yes, it's Feb.
He's a lieutenant and it's Febble.
Febble, as in February, Febble.
Yes. Very
Oh,
good.
okay.
Got it.
Thank you,
I can
Joe.
remember that. Lieutenant Febble.
Go ahead, Mike.
Hey, thank you, Jose. I just wanted to say congratulations to Brenda for the award she got from the Minority Bar Coalition. Her fireside chat interview was brilliant. I didn't know you're from Meridian, Mississippi. I was born and raised in Macomb.
Is that right? Oh, wow, Mike, we got to talk about that. Yes, indeed. That is great. And Mississippi is a great place to be from, isn't
Yes,
it?
ma'am.
From.
I was gonna send this off with a comment about going to the gym, Rudy and Joe. Everybody looks the same without a towel.
But yes, indeed. But thank you for that shout out, Mike. Okay.
So I think we're good. We're gonna put out the doodle poll, and we're gonna definitely put out some materials in terms of our homework, and keep on trucking, as they say.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving,
Creighton, again, a special thank you
Oh,
for
yeah.
taking over that.
Yeah,
That was
thank you.
outstanding.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all. This was
You
so
got it.
energizing. It was great. It was great.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And we'll be in touch, Rudy.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks so
Okay.
much for
Bye
taking
now,
the
everyone.
time
Have a
with us.
good day.
Okay. I think I can end recording now. Okay. I'll stop the recording. Okay.